Hello, welcome to the Learn English Lab. Today's deep dive topic, book versus movie, which tells the story better. It's a classic showdown, isn't it? One that has probably sparked countless debates, among anyone who loves a good story.
Oh, absolutely. Friends, families, critics, scholars, everyone seems to have a strong opinion.
And we're not just talking about simple preference here. We really want to dig into the fundamental differences.
Exactly. How these two, very powerful mediums actually bring narratives to life in such different ways.
Right. So while both books and films are, great storytelling avenues, they engage us differently, wouldn't you say?
Fundamentally differently, yeah. Books sort of invite that deep introspection. They really rely on your imagination. It's a very personal thing.
Building the world in your head.
Right. Whereas movies, they captivate more with, the visual and the auditory spectacle. It's immediate emotional impact.
And much broader accessibility, often.
Definitely. Hits a wider audience quickly.
So our mission today is to really explore the distinct advantages and, I guess, the inherent limitations of both mediums.
Yeah, looking at both sides of the coin.
We'll be navigating through some really iconic adaptations, looking at their techniques, how they pull you in.
And also their value for learning English and understanding different cultures, which is super relevant for our listeners.
Absolutely. So we'll try to figure out if one medium truly reigns supreme or...
Well, as I suspect we might find, if their real power is actually in how they work together, how appreciating both gives you a richer experience.
Okay, sounds like a plan. Get ready to maybe uncover some intriguing insights, folks, and perhaps even shift your perspective a little.
Let's dive in.
Right, let's kick things off by delving into that unique intimacy you mentioned with books. When you pick up a book, it's just you and the words, isn't it?
Yeah.
That creates a really special kind of connection.
It really does. It's like a direct line into the author's world, but also into your own mind interpreting it. And books, they just excel at building character depth, don't they? And crafting these incredibly intricate worlds.
And weaving complex narratives that can just go on and on.
Hundreds of pages. They have that luxury, unlike films with their, 2-hour runtime constraints.
Yeah, no strict limits. Stories can unfold more organically, more thoroughly.
Exactly, giving everything space to breathe.
So think about exploring a character's inner life. What can a book really reveal there?
Well, you get direct access, don't you, to their thoughts, their deepest motivations, their whole backstory sometimes.
It's like you're literally inside their head.
Yeah, experiencing the world through their eyes, understanding what really makes them tick.
Can you give us an example of that?
Sure. Take Pride and Prejudice. Over all those pages, the novel just meticulously details Elizabeth Bennet's evolving perceptions of Mr. Darcy. You're not just watching her, you're experiencing her wit, her internal debates, her judgments.
And all the subtle social stuff of Regency England, too.
Precisely. And the novel's length allows for these detailed subplots, like Lydia's elopement, which often get really shortened or cut in film versions.
Right, you lose some of that richness.
You do. The book lets you live with them longer.
That detail lets you sort of grow with the characters, see them change. And it's not just characters, right? It's entire worlds.
Oh, absolutely. Think about Dune. The book just immerses you completely. The complex politics, the ecology of Arrakis, the spirituality.
Paul Atreides' visions, the Fremen culture. It's all laid out.
In incredible detail. And that depth, even the fantastic 2021 film, visually stunning as it is.
Yeah, it was amazing visually.
It was, but it has to condense so much. It leaves out a lot of the lore, the philosophy, just to fit into that 2.5 hours.
But you miss some of those internal struggles, those quieter moments.
You do, those bits that really define Paul's journey in the book.
Okay, so depth is a big one for books. What about imagination? That seems like one of the most, enchanting things about reading, that freedom it gives you.
Absolutely key. Each reading experience is genuinely unique because your mind is actively doing the work, constructing the world.
It's like a collaboration.
It is. In something like The Lord of the Rings, Tolkien describes the Shire or Mordor. But you're the one conjuring the specific images. Your Shire might look slightly different from mine.
No two readers will picture Frodo or the ring in exactly the same way.
Exactly. And that active participation creates a really deep personal connection. It's your Middle Earth.
In the films, even the brilliant Peter Jackson ones, they inevitably give you one interpretation.
Right. A visually magnificent one, but singular. It might not match what was in your head.
It's a trade-off then. Shared vision versus personal vision.
Definitely. And that freedom also extends to, narrative pacing.
How so?
Well, you control the pace when you read, but also books like A Game of Thrones can handle these sprawling subplots, tons of secondary characters.
Oh yeah, the politics in King's Landing alone.
Exactly. That stuff significantly deepens the world. The TV show, Game of Thrones, while huge, had to streamline a lot of that.
For television, yeah.
Yeah.
You lose some complexity.
You do. The books let you just live in that world for weeks, soaking it all in.
Okay, so depth, imagination. What about the language itself? Books offer this incredible linguistic journey, don't they? Exposure to all kinds of writing styles.
Oh, massively. From the, elegant prose of The Great Gatsby to the dense philosophical stuff in Crime and Punishment. Books really challenge you intellectually.
They make you work a bit more.
They do. They compel you to analyze themes, interpret symbolism, ponder moral questions. It's a very active mental engagement.
Like in To Kill a Mockingbird, using Scout's young perspective.
Right, to explore these huge themes of racism and justice and those detailed courtroom scenes.
You feel like you're right there in the jury box.
Exactly. Actively considering the ethics, the evidence.
But we should probably acknowledge the challenges too, right? Books aren't always easy.
Good point. They definitely demand a significant investment of time and focus. That can be a barrier.
Especially for beginners, or maybe language learners.
For sure. And really intricate texts, complex language. They can feel pretty daunting without some guidance. You might get bogged down.
Okay, so that's a good overview of the power of books. Shall we pivot to movies?
Let's do it. The dynamic world of film.
Yeah, it's a totally different beast, isn't it? Visual, auditory. It has this unique magic.
It really does. Films bring stories to life with imagery, music, performances. It hits you differently.
They seem to prioritize that emotional immediacy you mentioned and accessibility.
Definitely. They often reach a much, much wider audience than the original book ever could.
And they communicate with this intensity. It's often unmatched, that direct hit.
Yeah, a collective experience in a dark room. It can be incredibly powerful.
Films convey emotion and action with such potency. You feel it viscerally.
In your gut, yeah. Suspense, joy, sorrow.
Yeah.
It's immediate. Less intellectual filtering, maybe.
Good way to put it. Can you think of an example where the film really nails that emotional impact?
The Shawshank Redemption comes to mind, adapted from a Stephen King novella, right?
Yeah, Rita Hayworth in Shawshank Redemption. Shorter story.
Right, and the film's cinematography, to those bleak visuals early on, then the shift.
And Thomas Newman's score. Iconic.
Totally iconic. It just amplifies Andy Dufresne's whole journey from despair to hope. And that escape scene.
Oh, the rain scene. Unforgettable.
Forgettable. The sheer visceral resonance of that moment, the relief. The novella is great, but it can't replicate that immediate visual, auditory punch.
You witness the freedom.
You do. And that visual power works incredibly well for historical stuff, too.
Making the past feel tangible.
Definitely. Think of Schindler's List.
Wow, yeah. Powerful film.
The stark black and white visuals, John Williams' haunting music. It depicts the Holocaust with such profound emotional weight. And specific images like the girl in the red coat.
Stays with you.
It really does. It leaves this lasting emotional scar that complements the book's historical context in a unique way. It forces you to confront it visually.
Movies are also masters of distillation, aren't they? It's taking huge stories and making them concise.
Yeah, they're experts at streamlining intricate narratives into engaging, digestible experiences. 2-3 hours, usually.
The Harry Potter films are a great example.
Perfect example. Thousands of pages condensed into a series of movies.
And while the books have all those amazing subplots like SPW,
the House Elf Liberation Front. Yeah, the films wisely focus on the core storylines.
Makes them super accessible even if you haven't read the books.
Exactly. You can jump in and follow the main adventure.
But, as we touched on, that condensation has a cost sometimes. Things get left out.
It definitely can. Necessary streamlining means omitting nuances readers love. Like in Goblet of Fire, the movie skips a lot of the Quidditch World Cup politics.
Which was quite a big deal in the book, hinting at darker things.
Right. Films have to make those tough choices for runtime and focus. You can't include everything.
Another thing about movies is that collaborative artistry. It's not just one person's vision.
That's a great way to put it. A symphony of talents.
Director, actors, composer, cinematographer.
Take The Godfather. Mario Puzo's novel is powerful, but the film elevates it. Coppola's direction.
Branda's performance.
Nino Rota's score. Unforgettable. The novel goes deep into the family history, the internal stuff.
But
But the film's visual storytelling, like that baptism murder montage,
Chilling. Genius.
it creates this undeniable cinematic masterpiece that, for many, kind of surpasses the source. It's a different, equally valid artistic achievement.
But just like books, films have their challenges too,
Yeah.
especially maybe for language learners.
Oh, for sure, that rapid-fire dialogue you often get.
And slang, idioms.
It can be really overwhelming if English isn't your first language. Hard to keep up.
Even with subtitles, maybe.
Yeah, you're reading fast, trying to listen, and unlike a book, you can't easily stop and linger on a tricky phrase or sentence to really analyze it.
No easy highlighting or flipping back.
Exactly. It lacks that permanence for deep language study.
Okay, this is fascinating. To really nail down the differences, maybe we should compare some specific adaptations side by side.
Great idea. Let's look at some well-known book-to-movie examples and see how they stack up. This is where the nuances really pop.
Perfect. Let's start with a classic. To Kill a Mockingbird, the book by Harper Lee, scouts first-person view, that child's perspective on huge issues like racism, justice in the 1930s South.
Right. The prose paints this incredibly detailed picture of Maycomb, the social fabric, Atticus's quiet integrity, Boo Radley.
And those long courtroom scenes. You really get into the trial.
Definitely. Now, the 1962 film, it stars Gregory Peck, right?
Yeah, iconic performance.
Absolutely. And the film really captures the novel's essence, the mood, through those powerful performances and the stark black and white look.
But it has to cut things, doesn't it?
It does. Certain subplots, like sex experiences at school, are mostly gone. Secondary characters like Anne Alexandra are streamlined.
So the overall scope feels a bit smaller.
It does. You lose some of the texture of the town's everyday life and the broader social commentary.
So, weighing those up, which one tells the story better? Or is that the wrong question?
You might be the wrong question. But for sheer depth, for that full, intricate picture of Maycomb society, the book is richer. You understand the context more deeply.
But the film.
But the film makes it incredibly accessible, emotionally immediate. Peck's Atticus is just seared into people's minds.
So maybe book for comprehensive depth, film for immediate impact.
That sounds about right. The book's nuance gives it an edge for deep storytelling, but the film's power is undeniable, especially as an introduction.
Okay, next up, The Great Gatsby, Fitzgerald's 1925 novel.
Ah, the Jazz Age, that lyrical prose capturing the decadence, the hollowness, Gatsby's impossible dream.
And Nick Carraway's narration adds all those layers of psychology, social critique.
It's incredibly subtle and layered writing. Now compare that to, say, Baz Luhrmann's 2013 film.
Very different vibe. Super vibrant visuals, modern soundtrack.
Right. It definitely brings Gatsby's opulent world to life in a spectacular way. DiCaprio's performance is compelling too.
But
it arguably sacrifices a lot of the novel's subtlety. It leans heavily into the spectacle, the parties, the visual excess.
more than the quiet introspection or the critique.
I think so. It feels like the film sometimes gets caught up in the glamour it's supposed to be critiquing.
Interesting. So, for Gatsby, where does the storytelling edge lie?
For me, the book's poetic depth and nuanced themes make it the superior storyteller here. Fitzgerald's language does so much work.
The film's visual flair is engaging, but maybe misses the point slightly.
It risks overshadowing Fitzgerald's profound critique of the American dream, I think. The book just cuts deeper.
Okay, let's jump to a modern thriller, Gone Girl, Gillian Flynn's novel from 2012.
Great example. Uses those alternating perspectives, Nick and Amy. Unreliable narrator.
Twists and turns everywhere.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Deep psychological insights into this incredibly toxic marriage. Gripping suspense built through their inner thoughts.
And then David Fincher's 2014 film adaptation.
Yeah.
Very slick, very tense.
Yeah. A really taut thriller. Great performances from Rosamund Pike and Ben Affleck. It absolutely nails the twist.
Or ends that shock value.
It does, but again, it has to condense those internal monologues. You get less time inside their heads compared to the book.
More focus on the external plot points, the procedural stuff.
A bit, yeah. It's paced for cinema, keeps things moving relentlessly.
This feels like a closer call than Gatsby, maybe.
I think it is, yeah. The book's psychological complexity arguably gives it an edge for sheer storytelling depth, understanding why they do what they do.
With the film.
But the film's suspenseful pacing and those powerful, unsettling visuals are incredibly effective. It's an exceptional cinematic experience on its own terms. Really grabs you.
So book for the deep dive into their minds, film for the thrilling ride.
That sums it up pretty well, I think. Both are excellent, just in different ways.
All right, how about The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, Stieg Larsson's 2005 novel?
Oh, that's a dense one. Very character-driven mystery.
deep dive into Elizabeth Salander's backstory, her trauma.
And Blomqvist's investigation, all the financial details, the Vander family history.
Right, plus the rich Swedish setting, the social commentary on violence, corruption. Lots going on.
Then you have David Fincher's 2011 film version. Again, very atmospheric.
Masterfully captures that gritty, dark tone, and Rooney Mara as Elizabeth, iconic.
Totally. But similar story, it has to streamline things.
Inevitably, numerous subplots and secondary characters are cut or reduced. It focuses much more tightly on the central mystery.
So less of the intricate journalistic detail or the broader societal critique from the book?
Generally, yes. It's leaner, more focused on the thriller aspects for conciseness.
So the verdict on this one, book or film?
Again, depends what you're looking for. For the full, in-depth story, especially the character studies and the rich cultural, political context, the book stands out. It's just more expansive.
But if you want that visual intensity, that thrilling pace...
The film delivers that brilliantly. It's a fantastic thriller. Very appealing if that's your main draw.
Okay, final comparison, Life of Pi. Jan Martel's 2001 novel.
A beautiful book. Blends philosophy, spirituality, survival. Pai Patel's narrative is just extraordinary.
Asks those huge questions about faith, storytelling, human nature.
And that ambiguous ending leaves you thinking long after you finish. What really happened on that lifeboat?
Then Ang Lee's 2012 film. Visually, just wow.
Absolutely stunning visuals, groundbreaking CGI for Richard Parker, the tiger, those surreal ocean scenes.
It really brought the journey to life in a way words almost couldn't.
It did. It successfully retains the story's emotional core, that sense of wonder and terror.
But does it simplify things a bit?
It does tend to simplify some of the deeper philosophical and theological discussions from the book. They become more implicit, suggested visually, rather than explored through Pai's internal reflections.
So how do they compare as storytellers for Life of Pi?
Well, the book's introspective depth, its philosophical weight, gives it an edge for intricate, contemplative storytelling. It really invites you to ponder those big ideas.
But the film's visuals?
The film's breathtaking visuals make it a truly captivating adaptation. It offers a unique sensory experience, an immersion that's purely cinematic. You see the impossible.
So maybe read the book to think, watch the film to see and feel.
That's a pretty good summary, yeah. They offer different dimensions of the same incredible story.
This comparison really highlights how much the medium shapes the experience. Let's shift gears slightly now and think specifically about learning English.
Yes. Both books and movies are fantastic resources, but again, in different ways.
Right. Each offers distinct advantages depending on your goals, your level, how you like to learn.
Understanding those differences is key to using them effectively for language acquisition.
Okay, let's start with books again. For building vocabulary and understanding grammar, they seem like a powerhouse.
Absolutely a goldmine. You're exposed to such a huge diversity of words, complex sentence structures. It builds a really solid foundation.
And you see words used in context over many pages.
Exactly. Classics like Jane Eyre expose you to more formal, historical English. Contemporary novels like The Fault in Our Stars give you more conversational language.
And there are options for all levels, right? Graded readers for beginners.
Yeah, those are great starting points. While advanced learners could tackle something really rich like Moby Dick for its incredible prose, the key is you can go at your own pace.
Pause, look things up, reread.
Crucial for learning, and that naturally helps reading comprehension too.
Because you have to actively work things out.
Right. You have to infer meaning from context, follow arguments, track themes. Reading To Kill a Mockingbird, for instance, challenges you with its layered language. The Hobbit offers a more accessible fantasy narrative for intermediate learners.
You're building those comprehension muscles.
Definitely. Then what about writing skills? Books must be good models for that. Excellent models. You see how narratives are structured, how dialogue works, how description creates atmosphere.
So analyzing Gatsby could teach you about vivid imagery.
Exactly. Or reading Orwell's 1984 shows you powerful, persuasive writing, how language shapes thought. You absorb these techniques.
But we mentioned the challenges before time, concentration.
Yeah, those still apply for language learners. Complex texts can feel overwhelming without support. It requires patience.
Okay, now let's flip to movies for language learning. Listening skills seem like the big win here.
Huge win. Films give you authentic spoken English accents, slang, natural rhythm and intonation, stuff you don't always get from textbooks.
Like The King's Speech for clear British English.
Perfect example. Or Forrest Gump for a range of American dialects. And subtitles are a fantastic tool, especially at first.
Matching the sound of the word. What about conversational fluency, getting comfortable with everyday chat?
Movies are brilliant for that. Dialogue-heavy films, maybe like Clueless or a good rom-com.
Full of slang and cultural references.
Exactly. Great for picking up those natural phrases. Or something fast-paced, like The Social Network shows you modern, quick dialogue patterns.
And the visual element helps again here, right?
Without a doubt. Visual cues, expressions, actions, setting clarify meaning constantly makes it more accessible, less intimidating than just audio.
Like in the Hunger Games, the action supports the dialogue.
Precisely. You can often figure out what's going on even if you miss some words. It reduces the frustration factor.
But the challenges for movies, fast dialogue, slang.
Yeah, it can still be overwhelming. And that lack of permanence, you can't easily grab a sentence and study it like you can in a book. Rewinding helps, but it's not the same.
So bottom line for English learners, which is better? Or does it depend on the skill?
It really depends on the skill you want to focus on. Books are generally superior for building vocabulary depth, really cementing grammar, and developing writing skills.
Because you can study them closely.
Right. You can annotate, analyze sentence structure and Pride and Prejudice, really dig deep at your own pace.
But movies still have a crucial role.
Absolutely essential. They are fantastic for tuning your ear, improving listening comprehension, and getting a feel for natural conversational flow.
So maybe a mix is best.
A hybrid approach is often ideal. Maybe read The Perks of Being a Wallflower and then watch the movie. Reinforces vocabulary and comprehension together.
Good tip. And for beginners, maybe start with movies with subtitles.
Often more accessible, yeah. While advanced learners will find richer linguistic challenges in complex books, tailor it to your level and goals.
That makes sense. Now let's broaden out again. What about understanding culture? Books versus movies as cultural gateways.
Another fascinating comparison. Both offer windows into different cultures, but again, they do it differently.
Illuminating different aspects, maybe.
Exactly, appealing to different ways of learning about a place or a people.
Books seem like they'd offer really detailed cultural context. Descriptions, history, perspectives.
Immense detail. Think of Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe. It just immerses you in pre-colonial Igbo culture, traditions, beliefs, the impact of colonialism.
Or memoirs of a geisha detailing Japanese culture.
Meticulously. The rituals, the social hierarchies. Books like these offer incredibly nuanced insights if you want a deep dive.
And that historical context, too.
Crucial. A Tale of Two Cities gives you the French Revolution from the ground level. You understand the period's social dynamics.
What about exploring social norms, maybe within a subculture?
The Joy Luck Club is great for that. Delving into Chinese-American immigrant experiences, generational differences, cultural clashes and connections. You see the unspoken rules.
But the challenge here is similar to language learning. Requires time and maybe higher proficiency.
Yes, to really grasp the cultural subtleties embedded in the language and narrative, it takes effort. It might limit accessibility for some learners wanting quick cultural insights.
So movies for culture, they seem more immediate, more engaging visually.
Very immediate. Slumdog Millionaire just throws you into Indian culture, the visuals of Mumbai, the energy, Bollywood's influence. It's a sensory hit.
Or merely capturing that whimsical Parisian cafe life.
Beautifully. Even though it's not a direct adaptation, it feels culturally specific. You get the vibe instantly through visuals, music, dialogue.
So they offer more of a sensory feel for the culture.
I think so. Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, inspired by a novel, uses martial arts cinematography to depict Chinese aesthetics and values visually.
Or something like the Grand Budapest Hotel, not an adaptation, but evokes that interwar European culture through sheer style.
Wes Anderson's world building is amazing there. It reflects a cultural mood, an aesthetic, very powerfully through visuals.
Any drawbacks to movies for cultural understanding? Do they sometimes simplify too much?
They can, yeah. Sometimes cultural nuances get smoothed over for pacing or to appeal to a wider international audience. Like we discussed with Gatsby, prioritizing spectacle might flatten the historical critique.
Might present a glossier, less complex picture.
Potentially. It depends on the film, of course, but it's a risk.
So, if I really want to understand a culture deeply, where should I turn?
For deep context, history, social nuance, books usually offer more. To Kill a Mockingbird gives you that comprehensive view of the 1930s South you can't really get in 2 hours of film.
But for a vivid, immediate impression.
Movies excel there. Great for visual learners or those just wanting a feel for a place. The Godfather vividly portrays Italian-American family dynamics, traditions, the code, even if it's dramatized.
So once more, maybe combining them is the richest approach.
Absolutely. Read The Lord of the Rings for the deep mythological roots and invented culture, then watch the films for that breathtaking visual immersion. You get the best of both worlds, a holistic understanding.
It really seems like the better medium just isn't a useful concept here. It depends entirely on the individual, right?
That's the crucial insight, I think. It depends on you, the listener, the viewer, the reader. What are you looking for? What's your purpose?
So if you're a depth seeker, you value introspection, complex characters, intricate plots.
Books are probably your go-to. Things like Dune or Crime and Punishment that demand and reward that deep engagement.
But if you're more of a visual learner, you prefer action, immediate emotion, easy access.
Movies are perfect. Schindler's List, Shawshank, films that deliver that powerful, direct experience.
What about people short on time, busy schedules?
Films often win there. Quick, engaging narratives you can consume in one sitting, like The Hunger Games packs a lot into a couple of hours.
And for educational goals, as we discussed.
It splits. Books for linguistic depth, vocab, grammar. Movies for listening, conversational skills, quick cultural snapshots. Choose the tool for the job.
Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive, it feels abundantly clear there's no single winner.
No universal champion. Each medium excels in different ways, serves different needs.
Books like Pride and Prejudice, Mockingbird, Dune, they offer that unmatched depth, that imaginative freedom.
Ideal for nuanced storytelling, deep language learning.
And movies like The Godfather, Schindler's List, Shawshank, they deliver that incredible emotional punch, stunning visuals.
Perfect for accessibility, immediate impact, cultural immersion through sight and sound.
And for learning English, specifically.
Books build vocabulary, grammar, writing. Movies sharpen listening, fluency. Use both.
Same for culture books, for deep context, movies for vivid snapshots.
Right. The best approach is often to embrace both. Reading The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo and then watching Fincher's film that enriches your whole understanding of Lisbeth's world.
Or experiencing Life of Pi in both forms deepens your appreciation of its philosophy and its spectacle.
Exactly. So for you, the listener, whether you're learning English, exploring stories, or understanding culture, combining books and movies creates this dynamic, multifaceted experience.
It shows the question isn't which is better,
But rather, how do they wonderfully complement each other to tell stories in unique, powerful ways?
That's definitely a thought worth mulling over.
Yeah.
We really hope you've enjoyed this deep dive into the fascinating world of books and movies. If you found this discussion insightful, please do remember to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more deep dives into topics like this.